Hello, everyone, and welcome to Iowa Speedway. IndyHog back here again with round number. I gotta check. This is round number 10, right? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, it is. All right. I hit a little double check action. But round number 10, probably should have known that before. 60 laps per moto here, and that's important. 121 on the checkpoint. It's important too because 3 motos. So, of course, doing 4 Triple Crowns on the season. A Triple Crown for the street course at the beginning of the season with Long Beach, Triple Crown for the road course at the end with Laguna Seca. And then here we had Indy was a Triple Crown. Indianapolis Motor Speedway was Triple Crown quite a few weeks ago, actually. It was the end of September. Now it's the beginning of November, where we have our next Triple Crown, which you're looking at right here, Iowa Speedway. So this track is the first of 2 ovals being made for the season by Opix. First one here, Iowa, given a shot at this track. This is a track that I actually think is pretty underrated in real life. I really like Iowa for whatever reason. I don't know. I think it's pretty cool track in real life. It's not too crazy, but it's pretty simple, good like short track action, and tried to replicate it the best that he could here, and pretty decent as well, I would say, because this is a hard track to make work in Halo, so not the easiest thing to do. So let's go through it. 121 checkpoints, 60 on the laps. Go through the starting order. It's going to be Elite, then Roman. Elite back this week. Luke, Coop, Slaunch, Soul. Let's pull it up here a little bit, boys. Hunter, Detail, and then Armada and Camby bringing up the rear again. One more time. 60 laps, 121 checkpoints at Iowa. And we're green. Fortunately, cannot see the cornfields from here, so I'll say that for Jared, the lore expert. They are in the area, just can't see them from here. You'd have to explore the outside of the track. These are true facts. You got to believe me on that one. But leading the first lap down, Luke with a big inside run, going to take the lead. Elite in second, Launch running third. That is something you'll notice, too, is that inside line can be... It creates an interesting dynamic on this track because the inside line, a little bit of wall contact right there. That's not too bad though. Shouldn't be a caution early on. Inside line's very flat, and when you're running flat out, once you get green, once everybody gets up to speed, that straight up inside line is not very effective. You kind of need to be able to run like next to somebody for it to be effective. Like you can't really run it on its own. But kind of a similar effect to the Milwaukee Mile a couple weeks ago, I would say, but the opposite effect, where that track, where the outside was generally not the preferred line on that track, but it was actually pretty good on restarts. I would say that this track's kind of similar in that way. It's just the opposite. The outside line is the main line throughout most of the race here on Iowa, but the inside on restarts can be pretty good, and you can make some moves definitely on the restarts on the inside. Just once things get settled out, becomes a little more difficult to do. So yeah, very similar dynamic, I would say, to what we had at Milwaukee Mile. Literally just the opposite. So pretty interesting there. We'll have to see how that plays when the restarts happen, and will there be that many restarts? That's another thing about this track. We did not see many cautions in Milwaukee Mile. In fact, the first race went completely green, and I would say if I was going to compare this track to another track in the schedule, I would say I'd probably compare it to the last oval that we did, Milwaukee Mile. This one is quite different. But if I was going to compare it to any of them, that's probably the one that I'd compare it to. It's probably the closest that it is to any of them in the schedule. So because of that, I would say that this track should be a pretty clean race, but you never know. I wouldn't expect as many cautions as we had at Indy. That one was kind of expected, kind of figured we'd have a decent amount of cautions there. Little Texas, I would say I almost expected more. I mean, there was a decent amount, but almost expected more. Whoa, that was a move right there. I think that was Coop going around the inside. Armada with a huge run around the outside. Oh, Coop with a big drift on the inside, sliding it up into Detail there. Camby and... Is it Camby and Roman? Camby and Roman battling for the back right now, I believe. But this is a pretty long green flag run. And like I said, we'll see how long this can go on for. About 10 laps in. Tree action. So Luke with a decent gap right now in the lead. Hunter and Slaunch second and third, and that's going to help that lead gap as well, the fact that they're battling, but it's not just a two-way battle. Elite enters in there as well. For some reason, I feel like these guys, all the UK drivers, have been pretty solid on the ovals. I think Soul, yeah, did he get a... Was it... Oh, it was Indy, I think, right? Yeah, yeah, it was Indy where he got his win. I was gonna say Texas, but it wasn't Texas. Soul getting a moto win at Indy and some solid finishes from these guys in the oval races every once in a while. Or I shouldn't say that. Like throughout the season, really. It's just kind of switching off whichever driver it is that has the good one. Like Milwaukee Mile Elite was pretty good. Soul got a win at Indy. Little Texas, hard to say because everybody finished so close to each other. But they've been pretty good on the ovals, and overall the ovals, if we it's hard because it's just hard to get these oval hog tracks right. Like I feel like the nice thing about IndyHog with doing these different races, with doing these oval races and doing the street tracks too, I should say, is I feel like with every race, with every new track, I feel like we're learning more and more um, about the hogs and how to handle them. Because the hogs, I mean, obviously we saw it earlier in the year with the second running of the hog woo track. Like it's so different, and obviously, I mean, it's a pretty obvious reason. The hogs are just so much bigger, and you I mean that obviously has an effect on the road courses and the street courses, but those tracks have a pretty big gap, and generally there's a passing zone or two. So usually it's not like a huge deal. It matters. It's obviously different than the gooses, but it's not like the biggest deal. But obviously on these oval tracks it is a pretty big deal, especially with the screen lag, like the hogs being wider and with how close oval racing is. It can obviously make things pretty difficult, especially on a track like this, where you can make some pretty legit moves early in the race, but later in the race, if you want to make a pass, a lot of the times, interestingly enough, this is how I thought Milwaukee Mile would play out, and then Milwaukee Mile changed a little bit because the inside was stronger than I thought. You kind of have to race this like a woo track, which is kind of weird, and you'll probably see what I mean as the night progresses. I don't think it'll be like that as much in the beginning. But if you want to make a pass, like you kind of have to go for a slide job. Like you can kind of run side by side with somebody forever, but if the person you're battling with doesn't want to back out of it, you can't really pass them. Like it's going to be, you can, but it's going to be very difficult. It could take many laps, and the amount of laps that it can take can slow you down. So if you really want to make a pass, a lot of the time, I think what you have to do on this track is make a slide job, and that's going to make things interesting, and it's going to make things pretty dirty as well. It's going to be a gritty race once people catch on to that. Little bit of wall contact. Oh, he's over. He's over. Elite and Hunter battling it out hard there for many laps, and finally Elite bites the dust, and that's going to be our first caution. 20-something laps in here. 22 laps or so. So that'll be your first caution. And yeah, and you could tell, like, they were battling side by side for so long before that happened, and that's the thing with this track, is just, like, that's the way it's going to be. And it's weird, because we're not used to that. We're not used to, non-woo physics racing like a woo race. But that's kind of how it is. That's kind of how it is. And again, it's not going to be like that early on, but I think it'll probably evolve as the night goes, because people are just going to realize, I mean, they've already known from the heats, but they're going to know more and more as the night goes on, like how hard it is to pass without making a move like that. But here we go on the restart, and here you'll see a big dive right there. Was that Roman on the inside? It was, and 4 wide down the back stretch. 3 wide now, 2, 3 wide, 4 wide for the lead. And here you can see where this track really shines. Now it can, it can separate like we saw in Milwaukee Mile as well on those long green flag runs. But these restarts on this track are genuinely pretty cracked, and Hunter slides up a little bit. It's going to be some wall cheese. This is really going to switch things up. Hunter's going to go to the lead now. And a huge dive to the inside from Roman as well. And a slow from Hunter. And that's going to open up the lead battle. Slunch to maybe go around the outside, Soul around the inside. And the pack racing is totally on this restart. And if these guys keep making these moves, it's going to be hard for anybody to really separate. That's the goal. That's what you want to do. You want to be the guy in the lead to just get away from the battle, but it's so hard to do. A little bit of wall contact there for Slunch. It's going to slow him up tremendously, and they're all going to check up. And that's going to cause a caution there as well. Luke and Coop with the contact off of that. And that's a brutal contact for Luke. Going to go from leading that restart all the way now back to the second to last place position. Coop still towards the back there. And that just goes to show how much can swap on these restarts. Hitting the halfway point here as well, or very close to the halfway point. Going through the choose. Figure this out. Everybody get lined up. I think the choose is pretty... It's hard to tell, because again, the restarts are so... Oh, is this... We're waiting on Camby? Oh, we're waiting on Camby. That's what was going on. Sorry, I forgot about that. Totally missed him there. The choose on this track, because that's a discussion. We keep talking about that, obviously, the rule coming into play this season and, shaking things up a little bit. The choose on this track is interesting because I'd say, again, pretty similar to Milwaukee Mile. Like, it was pretty balanced. I think a lot of people went with their normal position, but in some cases, we saw people choose that outside. In some cases, we saw people choose the inside. It was pretty balanced, I would say. It was pretty balanced. Because the restarts are so cheesy that it's hard to tell what the right line to be in is. Green flag about halfway through the moto here, first moto at Iowa. And the runs are so important too, and maybe even a little bit of throttle control on the restarts as well. But like I said, this is where the track really shines. Like, things can get separated a little bit. To be fair, that's well, not just Hog Oval, but that's in general, like most ovals in Halo, right? Like, that's the pack racing is what really makes it shine. So it's not like it's an Iowa specific thing. Like, that's pretty that's pretty general. But the restart battling is really good and really interesting on this track. Because again, the outside line can get some really big runs and certainly has the potential to get away. So it's kind of on the inside drivers to not let them get away. And how do you handle that? Like, how do you approach taking your turns and trying to battle with the leader and trying to put yourself in that position to, like, kind of slow them down and keep yourselves in the race? Now, you see in that last restart, I think people did a good job of it. And there was just, like, such a continuous pack. Everybody was battling throughout the field. 3 wides, 4 wides, everywhere. It was really cool to see. Now, on this restart, as you can see, it's already separated a little bit. Soul has gotten out. Hunter has got Slaunch battling to his inside, but it's just a 2-way battle. Details completely on his own. A 3 wide there through the back and a little bit of a 2 wide developing. So it's still good racing throughout the field, but definitely has separated a little bit more. And it's mostly Soul, that guy that I was talking about in that last restart where I was saying, you want to be that guy. Oh, what happened to Camby? Sorry, Camby. I don't know. Sorry, Coop. What happened to Camby? How did he end up so far behind? I'm not sure what happened there. But Soul, like I was saying, like, you want to be that guy that somehow, like, finds the way to just get away from that continuous battle and just check out. It was Luke in the early start. This start, it's the last start, it wasn't really anybody. Hunter for a little bit, but then it got interesting again. This restart, it's absolutely Soul. It's, like, very obviously Soul. He has gotten away. He is in the best position. If the rest of this race goes green, I can say with confidence that he will win. If the rest of this race goes green, Soul will absolutely win. So he is in control of this race. And even if there are cautions, he's going to be in control. So he's in a very good spot, especially now that we're getting closer to the end of the race. And Soul, again, like I said, he's already got a moto win. Could he pick up another one? The only drivers, now that I think about it, Roman's got 1, Soul's got 1, and then Detail's got 3, and Luke's got 2 on the ovals, I want to say. So that was just off the top of my head. That's the oval win split this season so far, I want to say. And yeah, so Soul's already a proven winner on the ovals this season, so maybe he can put up another one on the board. And like I said, it can get cheesy, but I do really enjoy this Hog Oval racing. It is different. Well, I mean, obviously I enjoy oval racing in general, but the Hog Ovals, I like how competitive it is. Like, it's been, if we ever did like just a straight Hog Oval season, I think it could genuinely be like an interesting points battle with maybe a person or two that's usually not in the fight to make things. And even if they weren't in the points fight for the championship, to still just, like, take wins in different motos and stuff like that. Like, it would be like a real life oval schedule. Honestly, I feel like it'd be pretty mixed. Now, at the same time, maybe if we only did ovals, maybe you'd figure things out. Maybe it wouldn't go like that, but I don't know. It'd be interesting to see someday. Maybe not next season, but maybe someday it could be an interesting thing to run. Because yeah, that Woo Hog Oval was pretty cheesy. Has potential, but the Woo stuff could get pretty cheesy because of how big the hogs are. But the straight oval hog races have generally... Oh, I did add some corn. There we go. We got some corn. I didn't even notice that throughout the entire race. What does that say about me? I literally ran past that. How many fucking times? Like 200 something laps? I did not notice that. But yeah, that would be interesting to see eventually, how that would play out. But anyways, with all that conjecture, all right, let's get back on the race. Going to about 15 laps to go. Soul still in control, but Hunter has gotten away a little bit, and he's in second. He's got a good spot there. Slaunch now has some breathing room. Detail and Luke fighting for 4th and 5th right now, trying to fight over that position. Detail on the inside. He's in an interesting spot. Does he try to just like take this spot? He's going to try to tuck in. He's going to try to tuck in. Interesting decision. That's a hard one to make, but he's going to make the decision here to try to tuck in behind Luke, and either they're going to make a charge or Detail will just be in a decent spot. If there is a caution, he'll be in an interesting position in the choose, to maybe have a good restart. So we'll see how that plays out. So it's really singled out up front. The main battle now is between Roman, Armada, and Camby, and Coop is trying to work his way back into it. This backpack, they just seem to not be able to separate from each other, so they're still going to be going at it. These guys are going to be hoping for a caution because they're going to need that 3 wide now. Camby to the inside. Not going to be able to do it. And it looks like Roman will have a decent gap now. So unless Armada does something crazy, I think Roman and Armada both. Oh, Armada did run the inside a little bit though. Camby and Coop, they'll have a run on him. So it's not going to be over for Armada, but I think Roman will be gone from that pack. Unless there's a caution, I think he'll be pretty safe now. And as you can see, big surprise here. It's been a 20-something lap green flag run. As you'd expect, it started to separate. That is usually what happens. But again, there's honestly a pretty good amount of laps. There's honestly a pretty good amount of laps before that started to occur. And we've had a pretty decent first moto. I'd say the highlight of this moto was probably that middle restart. The racing there was pretty sweet, but it's been a pretty solid first moto so far. And here we go. Soul going to hit the line this time. About 7 laps to go. I think 7 laps to go. So 7 laps. If there's no caution, Soul can just cruise to the line, and he can take his 2nd moto win on an oval and in general on the season. And in that battle with Roman, where they're very close in the points, Soul and Roman is absolutely a points battle. They're going to be 2 drivers that'll be very close. They're going to be fighting for that 4th, 5th place position. So if Soul, with where Roman is on track right now, where he's mired in the back a little bit, not the position he probably wants to be in, Soul is literally leading. Like, this would be a very good win for him, especially because, oh shit, what happened here? Could this be some spice? Elite and Detail, it's got to be them, right? Right? No, not okay. What happened? Oh, it's Camby and Coop, and Camby gets Coop in the wall a little bit. Now, with the new rules, shout out Dua, that should be a caution, but I don't think they'll call that because I think most people are probably not used to it at this point. That should be a caution in this season. I'm not sure if they'll call that, and I'm going to be honest, I don't remember if it got called or not. So I guess we'll find out. I guess we'll find out live. I'm going to find out with everybody because I genuinely don't remember. I think not. So that's a little bit of a, I'm not going to, I'm not going to cook either of them for that. That's a newer one on this season where if a driver puts another driver in the wall, like what just happened right there, I think it's very logical and reasonable to consider that 2 involved because one driver's putting another driver in the wall. So that should have been a caution. But those new rules, I see that still not get called sometimes. So I'll call it out here in the video. Just a good example right there that should be a caution. I know it's still hard because it used to not be one and people aren't used to it. But for future reference, I think I even have one this race that I should have called where it was like that. And I didn't call it. So I make the mistake too. So it's all good. We're still getting used to it, but that should be a caution in the future. But here we go to the end of the race. Soul takes the win, his 2nd on the season. Oh, and it gets cheesy, but a photo finish, another photo finish. Let's roll it back real quick before the theater conks us. So there's Soul crossing the line, takes the 2nd win of the season, and Hunter very defensive. And right there, Hunter will get Slaunch to the line. Hunter had it for a bit, but Slaunch had a really good charge that he was putting on for literally like 15 laps. Finally got there right at the end. I think Slaunch needed another lap or 2. So they'll get 2nd and 3rd. Hunter will get 2nd. Slaunch will get 3rd. Luke will get 4th. And Elite and Detail to the line. And Elite just barely gets detail at the line. I'm going to check the results live because I don't know how that was. I don't know. Yeah, I think I have to change that one. Probably going to be some other stuff changed too. I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, that's a heartbreaker for detail. Great position for Elite there. Very close. And that's going to nab him a top 5. Roman will take 7th. Armada 8th. Camby 9th. And Coop will come home in 10th. So yeah, just calling that out because again, I'm not like saying it like it's a huge deal. Or you know, like they need to feel bad about it or anything. That's happened a lot this season, and like I said, I think I even did it tonight. So just to clarify, just because that was a really good example, so hopefully everybody's still watching at this point. If one driver puts another driver in a wall, if the driver gets in the wall because they're being forced in the wall by another driver, that should be a caution. That should be a caution. So especially when they spin out in the resulting crash as well from Coop, because I think it's perfectly logical and reasonable. And thinking back on it, I don't know why we didn't consider it this way in the first place. We always said 2 people involved, and if somebody gets put in the wall, well, somebody has to put them in the wall. So it's kind of 2 drivers involved. I think that's just math. So I don't really know how you can argue against that. I think that should be fair. So just to point that out, that should be a caution. But again, it's tough because we're still, yeah, it's not like the first time that's happened this season, and it probably won't be the last time. But just to clarify, so everybody's on the same page, because I don't think everybody is, it should be in the future. So yeah, if that happens in the other, because I'm pretty sure it does, I'll point it out there too, just to give good examples to help people with the caution calls, because obviously we all have to make caution calls, and you know, want to try to help people the best that we can, because we want it all to be correct. Soul, Hunter, and Slaunch on the podium. Congrats to them, especially congrats to Soul. Big win for him here, and big start off to the night in Iowa. Maybe he can put in a pretty good one on the night. GG's. So you guys enjoyed it.